We are observing a targeted dismantling of legacy security protocols. The traditional model of an impregnable perimeter is being replaced by exploits that break networks at the level of their basic handshake logic. The defenses most organizations rely on are increasingly vulnerable. Enterprise-grade firewalls, containerized environments like Docker, and end-to-end encrypted messaging are currently being bypassed by attackers targeting architectural technical debt. To analyze these failures, we are deconstructing the Takin DarkWeb 2026 Threat Intelligence Mega Report. This intelligence provides a code-level look at how enterprise systems are being systematically compromised. We will analyze 4 specific attack vectors, mapping the progression from the network edge through the operating system kernel and cloud application logic down to the physical endpoint hardware. Because total isolation is no longer a viable technical assumption, security professionals must reframe their understanding of the entire enterprise stack. Checkpoint security gateways serve as the primary perimeter defense for a significant portion of the Fortune 500. However, legacy protocol support creates immediate risk. CVE 2026-50751, a critical 9.3 vulnerability, targets the deprecated IKE version 1 protocol remaining active on many of these gateways. IKE v1 aggressive mode allows the premature exchange of cryptographic hashes. Attackers initiate a handshake with a malformed certificate, triggering a logic flaw that skips password verification. This establishes a fully authenticated IPsec tunnel directly into the LAN without valid credentials. Incident response must begin by immediately dropping all active IPsec tunnels on UDP ports 500 and 4500 that utilize IKE v1. Next, teams must force a global password reset for all Active Directory accounts, preventing lateral movement via credential dumping. Finally, utilize EDR tools to sweep the network for Cobalt Strike beacons or AnyDesk instances, standard precursors to encryption. A hardware firewall cannot protect a network if deprecated protocols like IKv1 effectively leave the front door unlocked. Moving to the OS layer, modern cloud architecture relies on Docker and Kubernetes for application isolation. This isolation depends entirely on kernel-level C groups and namespaces to keep containerized processes separated from the host. CVE 2026-23111 is a use-after-free vulnerability discovered in the Linux NF table subsystem that bypasses these protections. A misplaced exclamation mark in the kernel C code causes a logical inversion. When an operation aborts, memory is freed while active pointers remain. Attackers heap spray shellcode into this empty space. Upon dereferencing, the payload executes with ring 0 authority, breaking container isolation. Defense requires disabling unprivileged user namespaces via sysctl and deploying eBPF tools like Cillian Tetragon to monitor capability escalations. Application isolation cannot be maintained when a 1-byte error in the kernel allows for a total host compromise. At the application layer, Meta recently integrated large language models into their high-touch support tool to automate account recovery. Unlike human support agents who maintain a level of logical skepticism, AI models are susceptible to prompt manipulation that overrides internal guardrails. This susceptibility allowed attackers to hijack over 20,000 high-value Instagram accounts by automating prompt injection attacks. By convincing the AI to change the email address on file, attackers completely bypassed standard identity verification checks required for account recovery. Organizations must mandate app-based 2FA or hardware security keys. A prompt-injected AI cannot bypass a physical, offline cryptographic token. Deploying LLMs for administrative actions without independent, multi-factor cross-validation creates a vulnerability that can be exploited at massive scale. Nation-state actors like NSO Group are evolving their tactics, moving away from expensive zero-click exploits in favor of more cost-effective methods. Their current strategy involves one-click spear phishing, using contextualized WhatsApp messages to lure high-value targets into clicking malicious links. This leverages WhatsApp's automatic link preview generation. A single click initiates a browser-to-OS exploit chain that silently compromises the device. This doesn't break end-to-end encryption. The encryption remains intact during transit, but the malware sits on the endpoint and skims data from RAM the moment it is decrypted on the screen. High-risk targets should enable iOS lockdown mode, disable link previews, and perform daily hard reboots to clear fileless spyware. These actors don't need to break encryption protocols if they can use social engineering to capture the hardware endpoint itself. Across each of these layers, from the edge and the kernel to the application and the endpoint, we have seen a failure of traditional isolation. The root cause is a reliance on single points of validation. These systems fail when they assume trust based on a network location or an application's internal boundary. Security teams must adopt an assume breach operational mindset, operating under the premise that the perimeter has already been compromised. This is the practical application of zero trust architecture. It replaces static perimeters with a mesh of continuous verification, requiring constant authentication everywhere. The Tekin verdict is clear. Security teams must immediately enforce hardware MFA, aggressively deprecate legacy code, and shift their defenses to address these specific documented vulnerabilities.